back to the grind. Get ready, folks. It's a new day. The channel where we talk about the real ideas to help people grow personally, professionally, and financially. We're your hosts, Thomas Sullivan,
Sean Loetscher.
Today we are happy to have Amanda Ponce, the president, creator of the Hometown Dream. Amanda, why don't you give us a brief little explanation as to what the Hometown Dream is?
Yeah, so the Hometown Dream is a nonprofit located in Highland, Illinois. We help people find and fund medical devices, supply, and equipment.
Oh, great, that's awesome. So really what we're going to be doing is going over a quick, I wouldn't call it quick, this video might be a little bit longer, but
Going over why she started it, growing up, her experiences with hearing loss, and how that kind of portrayed into this whole charity and wanting to help the people in her community.
The 3 points we're going to do, as we've spoken in the past, we are heavily focused on why we do something. So that's the first piece. Second is what's her goal with the foundation and where does she really see it going, and then what advice would she give to people that are looking to start a foundation or just start a business venture that they're nervous about, because I'm assuming you're probably a little nervous going into it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So let's do it.
So first we want to hear about Amanda's why and basically her personal experience with hearing loss and what drove her to start the charity, the Hometown Dream.
Yeah, so when I was born with severe hearing loss, and it wasn't really a big issue for me at the beginning of my life. I think in second grade, my parents took me out to Children's Hospital and I started going through the hearing tests. It was an annual kind of requirement that I needed to go do, but ultimately, I never did wear my hearing aids that I had throughout my childhood. And it didn't really ever come about until I was in college, when I was sitting in class and I could not hear the professor whatsoever. And that was the first time in my life where I was like,
I need hearing aids.
I need something. I felt like I was falling behind in schoolwork. I didn't feel as confident going into presentations anymore. So that's whenever I started thinking, I need to go do something about this. And that's also whenever I realized how expensive these have been.
Yeah.
So my parents have spent quite a bit of money throughout my entire life. I was probably 18 at that time, maybe 19. And I realized how ungrateful I was in that part of my time, because
Taking it for granted, you mean?
yeah. So my parents spent lots of money getting me these hearing aids that would have helped me and benefited my life overall, but I ultimately never did use them. And at that time at college, I was like, you know what, I got to go do this not only for myself, but for my future and my career.
So is there like a reason why you didn't use them? Was it just like you didn't want to show them off, or?
I think a lot of it had to do with the visualization of hearing aids. It was kind of cool as a kid to have glasses, but hearing aids were more of an elderly person kind of thing. And I would say a lot of it had to do with my confidence level on why I didn't use them. And I was pretty good at reading lips, so I didn't, like I said, struggle until I was in college.
Yeah, well, good.
Was it hard to take that initial step and being like, I really need to, take this seriously and get help, or things are just going to get worse?
I would say that was kind of the hardest step, was go seeing what the options were for hearing aids at the time. I was a college athlete, so I couldn't really have any particular type of hearing aid at that time because I was going to be playing practices, I was playing in games, I was sweating a lot. So like the natural style of hearing aid that's over the ear probably wasn't going to fulfill my need at that time. And I didn't really know if there was any other options. I was also concerned with, if I went and got those hearing aids, that would have been a big step for me. But then if I wasn't allowed to wear them or wasn't capable of wearing them within practice, I would be struggling, and that would be an even bigger disconnect, because your brain actually naturally reacts with the hearing aid in a positive way. But then whenever you are not wearing them, it almost makes like your hearing is worse.
Yeah. So you kind of grow accustomed to having that amplified sound all the time. I do remember you saying one time in the past that one of your concerns of getting hearing aids was that, like I said, you're going to become reliant on them, and your ears and your brain gets accustomed to that louder sound, and that it would gradually also hurt your hearing along, I guess, the process of having them. Have you noticed that at all?
So it doesn't physically hurt my hearing on a standpoint of like hearing tests. So I still take the hearing test every single year. I have not changed in many years, which is a positive effect of my hearing loss. But I do notice, like, when I go to bed at night and I take out my hearing aids, I'm like,
Can't hear anything.
yeah, I'm like, just don't talk to me. Like, when I'm in bed, I'm not going to be able to hear you.
Yeah.
Or if don't have my hearing aids in, unless I'm facing you, I won't be able to hear you either,
Yeah.
because I'm more than likely reading your lips.
Okay. So, Amanda, walk us through the progression of your life leading up to when you're actually starting the charity. What are some events that happened in your life that really led you towards saying, I want to help more people with maybe some problems that I experienced in my life as well?
I think as I got older, and I was getting towards the graduation of college, I was like, understanding how money kind of worked and how expensive these items can be for families, especially whenever you have to purchase them, whether it's every 3 years, whether it's every single year, whether it's multiple times throughout their life. But I understood because I saw the bills. I saw the bills come in of not only the hearing tests, but how much it was going to cost me on an annual basis to either pay for these hearing aids or pay it off in full. And I saw the impact that it had on me during that time of my life, because I'm a college student. I wasn't really working full time yet, and I can physically and emotionally feel the pain that someone might go through for some sort of medical device that they need to live a life that they at their full potential.
At that point, it shed a light, kind of like, oh, I'm about to go into the working world and I have this huge expense that I didn't even realize was a big expense at the time.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that played a big part in it. Another thing was I didn't think I was going to be moving back to my hometown. I didn't really have that intention. And as soon as I got back to Highland, I was like, man, I just love this community. I love being around people that I know. I love being with people that I've been with my entire life. This community kind of raised me, and it raised me in a way that I want to be able to give back. And so I was able to tie in my experience with the hearing aids and how much they costed and how much it benefits my life, and ultimately figure out a way to include that into the community at Highland.
So now, Amanda, if you'd just like to walk us and our audience through like what it takes and what you went through in the process of creating a charity.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting process to go through. It's much like opening a business, but there's a few extra steps that you have to make sure that you hit. And so I think the first step that I did was I was fortunate enough to have an attorney help me with the process, and she was very helpful from the very beginning and still helps me to this day. But she helped Clint and I file an articles of incorporation. So that was filing for a nonprofit in the state of Illinois. And after that, ultimately we went and filed for an EIN number. So that's the way that we're able to be identified as a
What does EIN
nonprofit.
stand for?
Employer Identification Number.
For the people out there that don't know, because I totally know what that is.
And then we got that approved, so we were now a nonprofit corporation in the state of Illinois. And so then the final step was to file for a 501c3 nonprofit status, which allows people to write off in the event that they make a charitable donation.
Okay.
So that was probably the longest process, because there's a lot of paperwork that goes into that, and thankfully, like I said, I had an attorney helping me get through that. But I think as of maybe June-ish, we have officially been completely filed, and ultimately we are a running nonprofit 501c corporation.
That's great. That's awesome.
How
It's gotta
long-
feel good.
Yeah. How long did that take from start to finish? Set it up.
To get it set up as a corporation in Illinois, it probably was only maybe a month or two.
Okay.
But I would say probably 6 months to get the final, like, we are an operating 501c3.
Do you feel that being not only a younger professional, but also being a woman, played any advantage or disadvantages into the process?
I think personally, being a young professional in general, not only starting a charity or a nonprofit, but they as the general public might not understand why you're doing something, or might not believe in you from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think that's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make, and I'm willing to prove and provide to my community, in the sense that this is what I believe, and I believe that it can make an impact on people's lives, whether that's on the hearing aid side, whether that's because someone needs an EpiPen, whether that's because someone can't afford insulin anymore. I think that my personal story backs the support on that aspect of things.
Great.
Yeah, I think definitely in the end, people will come around and they'll see like, okay, you stuck with it and you're actually making a huge impact, and they'll always come back.
And 2020, like I said, has been an interesting year.
Oh, of course.
But we've gotten a lot of great support, and ultimately our first event was scheduled for April of 2020. It got postponed to September, and then now we're going to start our kickoff event in 21. But we've been doing a little things here and there. We still have some donations coming in, even though we haven't even had our first event. So we're very thankful for that.
So, is the first kickoff event, is that open to the public?
It is.
So when is that for the people watching?
That is on September 19th, Saturday. No, June 19th.
June 19th.
June 19th. It's a Saturday, and it's at Grand Fork Park in Illinois.
Okay. So, anyone out there, if you'd like to attend and come out to show support, whether that be financially or just with your presence, I know Amanda would probably love to have you there. So.
Yeah. Do you need tickets, or you just show up?
Yeah, so it is a ticketed event.
Okay.
It's outside at a park because just with the coronavirus, we thought that was the best thing to try to provide an event like that and during these times. And hopefully by that time, things are going to be minimized anyways. But it's $15 to get in, and then ultimately we're going to have raffle baskets. We'll have auction items, like some signed jerseys from people within our community at Highland are going to be provided, and then we're going to have a band and a DJ, and maybe even more to come since we do have so much extra time to plan.
Yeah, that's true.
That's awesome.
Great. It sounds like it's going to be a fun event.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So, if you could break it down for us, how does your charity really work? From getting the donations all the way to you serving your community and helping your community.
So ideally, we would get a candidate in the door that needs, let's just say they need an EpiPen. And we would kind of break down what they need, how much it would cost. Is it going to be like just a one-time thing, or are they going to need it like over the course of a year, or maybe even a few years? And then ultimately what we would do is we would pay directly either to the insurance company if they are providing any sort of funding for that, or we would pay directly to the company that the EpiPen is coming from. So the cash in hand would never go directly to the candidate. That way we know that we are ultimately serving our purpose of providing medical devices, supplies, or equipment for those individuals or families. And it could be any type of device, supply, or equipment. I think we're definitely going to learn some things along the way and learn new devices or new things that are needed within our society. And so we're not limited to just hearing aids. We're not limited just to EpiPens. We can do anything.
Any sort of medical assistance things. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but
Even if it's like a hospital bed, if someone were to get sick and they need to now have a hospital bed in their home, but they can't afford it, or it's just a lot of expenses that are adding up. As long as we could provide some type of device or equipment to that family that would impact them, that's ultimately what our goal would be.
So you're kind of really a one-stop shop for any kind of medical help. So you mentioned like you have candidates. What qualifies a candidate? Is there paperwork? Is there a qualification process, or is it?
Yeah, so like let's use our first one for an example. We are using a local fire department as our first candidate because we do not have any individuals yet. Now ultimately when we do have an individual or a family come through the door, we will do like a review with them or a little bit of a paperwork. Nothing to the extent that's gonna get into their personal info or anything like that, but what's their need, how can we assist with them, then ultimately what's the result. And for the fire department, we identified in April when we were supposed to have our first event that they needed these EpiPens, and they needed two to be on their trucks. And so we were going to provide those EpiPens after the kickoff event to the fire department. Now, they were fortunate enough to receive a grant, so we are not going to be providing that for them at this point in time whenever the kickoff event does happen in June. But there's multiple other devices that we've been talking about that we will be providing for those departments.
So I mean, that is unfortunate that your first candidate kind of didn't need your assistance, but in in another light, that is kind of good because they got a different sort of
care.
assistance, and then they just didn't take your money just to take it. They're like, go help somebody else who needs it.
Yes.
Getting into that, what would like a normal year look like for you? I know starting in 2019, end of 2019, beginning of 2020, there wasn't much opportunity to have in-person events like typical charities have every year.
So I would say a normal year with the Hometown Dream would look like maybe 2 major events. We've kind of been tossing in the air what those would look like. After our first year, we are looking forward to forming a board, so people that actually believe truly what we're doing and deepen our belief system within the Highland community. And then over time, we'd like to maybe even develop some branches. So if someone within a different community really likes what we're doing and believes in the mission statement, maybe they open up a branch for XYZ district, and we can help not only develop that branch, but help them with their first events, help them with maybe some monetary stuff at the beginning, and then help more people within a bigger group of communities.
I mean, I think you chose an awesome name to extend branches, because the Hometown Dream, you can put that in any town, and it makes a big impact.
Yeah, even though you started in Highland, it's not specific to Highland. It can branch out.
So the Hometown Dream came up in mind whenever we were considering what we could call this sort of organization, and being from Highland, being from a community that was uprising for me in my life, we just thought that was very fitting for the charity itself.
So since our channel is heavily focused on growing and learning in the personal, professional, and financial areas of our life, a question we have for you, Amanda, is what have you learned about yourself personally, professionally, and financially?
So if I could kind of tie that question all into one, I think what I have learned is that how relevant, it's kind of a grind. Starting a charity is it's a lot of work. Money and donations and raffle baskets don't just get handed to you. You have to go and share what you're doing and share what you want to accomplish, and ultimately volunteers don't just come knocking on the door. You have to find people that believe in what you believe and try to create something that is going to impact not only the Highland community, but impact maybe the volunteers' lives or the donors' lives. How are they going to feel like they're fulfilling some sort of thing inside them with a donation to the Hometown Dream?
Great.
That's awesome. To a certain extent, you want to reach out to the community and help them, and then you also want, your volunteers to feel a sense of, gratefulness and enlightenment, kind of.
Yeah, so we aren't trying to just go and force people to be volunteers. We want people to learn what we're doing and then either be with us from whenever they learn about us, or whether they fall into us and they ultimately become a candidate and they see the benefit in their life and kind of grow from there.
Yeah. So that just kind of brings a question up in my head, like, what do you foresee is the problem with the medical costs?
So I think that's kind of the reason we exist. The cost of EpiPens went up not too long ago. The cost of insulin's continuing to go up. Hearing aids have always been expensive. Maybe even glasses are expensive in some aspects of things. We are there to provide that financial support for these issues to the families and individuals that need it most. And whether that's a device that they have always needed and they just need it at an even greater scale now in their life, or whether they're just born and they're going to need something throughout their entire life.
So Amanda, what advice would you give to others that are wanting to start a charity?
I would say that they have to find out what their why is. And I know that's a big topic that you guys talk about here on Grind. And you have to find out what your passion is and what drives you. And then go get involved, whether it's your monetary donations, whether it's your time, whether it's getting involved into some sort of organization that you've believed in. Just go do that, because I think that'll make you decide if you really would like to start something on your own, or maybe you're just more of a volunteer aspect to a organization.
I agree with that. If you're starting something or you're just wanting to learn about something, go do it. Don't just Well, I mean, reading a book and doing research on it is good, but at the end of the day, just go try. See what happens. The worst thing that can happen is someone says no or it doesn't work out, and then trust me.
Yeah, I mean, your gut's either going to say, I like this or I don't.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you get to figure out what you really want and what really drives you. If it's not what you want really drives you, that's a good sign as well.
Yeah.
But how would you suggest people get involved with the Hometown Dream? How do they go about doing that?
People can make monetary donations on our Facebook account. That goes directly to our 501c3 bank account, or even if you have time or you're free on our kickoff event, we are accepting volunteers for that as well. Or if you just want to make a donation with a raffle basket, if you have a company that wants to donate a t-shirt or an overall basket of a movie night or anything like that, that's how they can get involved with the Hometown Dream.
Great. So for the volunteers, do they message you on Facebook or your number on there? Can they get in contact with you personally?
Yeah, so I personally run the Hometown Dream Outlook account as well, which is thehometowndream@outlook.com.
Okay.
And then Facebook, I receive those messages as well. So whichever is easiest for them.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Whichever way you can, reach out.
Amanda, we'd like to thank you for coming on to Grind to kind of share a little bit more about your experiences and your charity itself. I hope that the viewers out there get something out of it. This may inspire you to go out and start a charity or just maybe even volunteer at one or give to one. And so our action item this week is to find a charity that aligns with your values and either make a financial donation or go volunteer at that charity, some way to get involved with the community and just spread that we're all in this together, we're all here to help each other, just being supportive towards the community itself. If you have any questions for us or the Hometown Dream, you can reach us at grindresource@gmail.com and Amanda at, what was it again?
The Hometown Dream at outlook.com.
Other than that, thanks for tuning in. Keep grinding.